the land of humans was slowly invaded by a demonic military force. Amidst this, a boy lived happily in his village, surrounded by family and believing that happiness would last forever. At that time, he saw the threat as a distant problem that would not affect him directly. In a rural village called Tancred, the boy Alec is woken by someone calling him insistently. Still sleepy, he feels something heavy and warm on his body, a gentle presence that makes him laugh when touched. Confused, he tries to understand what is happening. Alec wakes up to find Claire on top of him, laughing. Surprised, he gets up startled and complains about her entering his room again without permission. Claire responds naturally, saying it's a privilege of a childhood friend and that his mother allowed it. Claire reveals she came to Alec's house early because she saw his father putting away a jar of honey and suggests they eat it secretly. Alec is shocked by the idea of eating something so valuable, questioning if it's right to do that. Claire, without hesitation, answers that precisely because it's wrong, it's okay, showing her typical boldness. Claire lives at the village bakery, and her parents already know how close she and Alec are, so it's common for one to visit the other's home. That day, they go to the bakery together, are warmly welcomed, and enjoy a delicious meal, enchanted by the food. While savoring the honey, Alec and Claire praise it excitedly, calling it a forbidden flavor. Suddenly, they are surprised by Cedric, who appears asking if the honey tastes good. Intimidated, the two panic, trying to explain the situation as a misunderstanding, while Cedric watches everything with a disturbing smile. After being caught, Alec and Claire run away while Cedric shouts angrily. Alec thinks Cedric's scoldings are incredibly effective, having been reprimanded many times along with Claire. Even after that, Claire soon thinks of a new absurd prank, pulling the village chief's hair for a red feather soup. Alec, in disbelief, reacts saying that's obviously a terrible idea. Even finding the idea absurd, Alec decides to help Claire gather the herb, saying it's precisely because it's wrong that it becomes interesting. The two leave together excited, despite the headaches from previous scoldings. The village adults notice how well they get along, and one senses another big trouble is about to happen. Alec and Claire run off toward the new adventure, while the villagers watch them fondly and wish them a safe return. Alec reflects on the peace and joy of living peacefully with everyone there, a simple routine but full of little thrills he loved so much. Alec witnesses a horrible scene. A man screams in despair before being brutally beheaded before his eyes. In shock, Alec watches the mangled body, plunged into the horror of something he never imagined seeing in his peaceful village. Alec is frozen as he sees the blood splatter and the severed head fall before him. Shock covers his face. In the distance, insane screams and laughter echo through the village, while he starts running desperately, trying to call for help. The horror that was once distant now becomes real and unavoidable. Breathless, Alec runs looking for help, but all he finds is more horror. Peeking through a house window, he sees bodies brutally murdered, blood spread all over the room. Shocked and panic-stricken, he vomits and falls to the ground, screaming desperately at the terrifying reality before his eyes. Alec tries to understand the chaos around him as smoke and screams fill the village. Amid the panic, a known person calls him and warns him to run immediately. When asking what is happening, Alec hears the shocking truth. The massacre was done by the feared Dark Clan. The terrible truth is revealed. The village is under direct attack by the Demon King's army. Monstrous creatures invade, spreading destruction and terror among the villagers, who try desperately to escape. Chaos takes over everything, and the peaceful life Alec knew is being brutally shattered. Learning that the Demon King's army already controls the west side of the village, Alec panics. That is exactly where his house and Claire's are. Ignoring the warning to flee via the safe route, he runs back toward danger, determined to reach his parents and his friend before it's too late. Alec arrives at the devastated scene and screams in agony, seeing his father's body lying among the flames. He also recognizes Cedric, badly injured on the ground. In despair, Alec spots Claire being brutally dragged and tortured by goblins. Begging for help, the horror before his eyes throws him into an even deeper nightmare. Alec screams, desperately seeing Claire surrounded by goblins and lying on the ground, seriously injured. With her last thread of consciousness, she looks at him with teary eyes and begs, "Save me." Alec's despair reaches its peak, seeing his friend on the verge of death. Driven by rage and desperation, Alec charges at the goblins wielding a pitchfork, shouting for them to leave Claire alone. Determined to save her, he attacks with all his might, even though he is just a child. However, before he can reach her, a swift shot surprises him and enemy arrow is about to hit him. Alec regains consciousness in his mother's arms, dazed after the impact. She, wounded, asks if he is okay. With tears in his eyes and relief in his voice, Alec hugs her and says he's fine, overwhelmed with emotion at finding her alive amid the chaos. Seeing Claire in danger, Alec begs his mother to help save her. Wounded, she hesitates but soon runs in the opposite direction, ignoring his pleas. Alec, confused and desperate, calls her, not understanding why she abandons him at that moment. Alec's mother hugs him one last time and says he must survive. In the next instant, she is hit by several arrows, protecting her son with her body. Alec screams desperately, watching his mother die in his arms. A mysterious warrior appears, defeating the enemies with ease and forcing the Demon King's army to retreat. He mocks the survivors and orders them to deliver a message. They will be waiting to face them again at any moment. Alec, in shock and holding his mother's body, witnesses the end of the massacre, but now carries irreversible scars. Amid tears and deep hatred, Alec makes a vow with eyes burning with fury. He will destroy every member of the Dark Clan, whether ogres, goblins, or dark elves. No matter how long it takes or what he has to sacrifice, his revenge is sealed. The tragedy in the village happened 20 years ago. Since then, Alec has faced a hard path, starting from scratch. Although he was the weakest among the soldiers, he grew stronger over time. That bloody night marked the beginning of everything. 20 years later, Alec became a full hero. Now, he soars the skies mounted on a dragon, accompanied by his battle companions, ready to face any threat that appears. Alec and his allies fly toward the demon army's headquarters mounted on a dragon. During the trip, a worried companion asks if he is okay, to which Alec answers sarcastically, joking about falling and dying even before reaching the Demon King's castle. Despite the light tone, the mission is deadly serious. The final confrontation is near. Mounted on dragons, Alec and the Human Alliance warriors advance through the sky. Their goal is clear: to launch the final offensive against the Demon King's castle. This mission represents the last chance to end the long war between humanity and the demon army. With the help of a white dragon who deserted the enemy army, the heroes plan a direct aerial attack on the Demon King's castle. All involved are volunteer soldiers survivors who refuse to surrender to despair and now fight to end the war with their own hands. Alec and his companions spot the Demon King's castle in the distance. He declares that if they have to give their lives to end the invasion, it will be a fair price. After years of suffering and preparation, the moment has finally come. Everyone prepares to descend and fight, ready for the decisive confrontation. Alec leads the final attack against the Demon King's castle, shouting with fury and determination, "Kill the Dark Clan," with his allies by his side and the target in sight. He charges into the battle that will decide humanity's fate. Human troops invade the castle amid chaos, breaking walls and facing fierce resistance. Inside, hordes of undead appear to block their advance. Shocked, the soldiers realize the number of enemies is overwhelming, but the order remains firm: keep moving forward, no matter the cost. Amid darkness and the undead's advance, one warrior uses holy magic to light the battlefield and repel the enemies. The soldiers feel relieved and thankful for the salvation. But soon after, as they approach the throne room, a new threat awaits them. Something monstrous is there. During the advance, the group is surprised by enemy reinforcements arriving too fast. Facing the threat, one of Alec's allies decides to stay behind to hold the enemies, shouting for him to go on. Though reluctant, Alec understands the sacrifice and continues toward the throne where the world's fate will be decided. Alec runs alone through the castle, filled with fury and shouting his vow to exterminate the Dark Clan. Approaching the throne, he is surprised by a cold voice. The enemy, now before him, watches with curiosity and irony, surprised someone got so far. Alec finally reaches the throne and faces the enemy leader. Amid tension, he coldly confirms the opponent before him is indeed the Demon King. Sitting with authority, the sovereign recognizes him without hesitation, ready for the fight. The Demon King rises from his throne, proclaiming his name with authority. Golgi's Olgi. His presence radiates absolute power, and a colossal shock erupts from the center of the room, distorting the air around. Alec is now before the true force he vowed to destroy. Though shaken by the Demon King's overwhelming presence, Alec refuses to retreat. He rises determined, grips his weapon, and calls upon sacred light to guide him. With a defiant shout, he advances. Come, Demon King. The decisive battle is about to begin. Alec and the Demon King clash with brutal force in the throne room. Their eyes locked reveal hatred and conviction, the past of pain against the dark rule. Alec is violently hit by the Demon King as the image of Claire appears in his mind, encouraging him. Injured, he falls but still holds his sword, determined not to give up. Alec recalls his journey of overcoming, from the moment he decided to become a hero until this confrontation. With all remaining strength, he charges the Demon King in a final blow, determined to fulfill his purpose. As Alec strikes the Demon King directly, he remembers Claire and a simple but precious moment they shared. Thoughts of his loved ones accompany the attack, as if saying goodbye. Gravely wounded, Alec sees his life flash before his eyes. The Demon King, still standing, praises his bravery before declaring he will consume his soul as food, showing his cruelty and superiority. The Demon King delivers a devastating attack to Alec. Fallen and weakened, the hero accepts his end there, lamenting not having avenged all who were lost. The Demon King Golgi's, sovereign of the Dark Clan, looks down at fallen Alec and coldly declares he will take his life with his own hands. Amid the darkness, Claire's image reappears in Alec's mind, glowing as a precious memory. A single word echoes in the void. Good. Confused and insisting on fighting, Alec reaches out in challenge, but faces an unexpected revelation: a strong, lively demon baby. As the Demon King watches intrigued, a woman comments that the little one has many heirs to surpass. The scene suggests a cycle beginning again. Jilbages prepares nervously, expecting something grand, but is surprised when a demoness invites him to start his studies. Indignant, he protests, but she ignores him with a cheerful smile. Jilbages complains about not being able to see the Demon King yet, but is told he is not ready. Meanwhile, the administrative sector is overwhelmed by his recent promotion in the ranks. Despite receiving the noble title of Esquire, he feels stuck. Jilbages learns that the title of Junior Knight is the lowest in the demon hierarchy. To rise, one must earn merits in war, and any race can be promoted. Those who reach the top of nobility become the next Demon King. He realizes succession to the throne is more open than he expected. Jilbages learns that in the demon realm, succession to the throne depends not on blood, but pure strength. The hierarchy is maintained by merit and power because demons with strong egos would not obey someone weaker. Additionally, the contract with the evil god Carnival enforces this order. Only the true Demon King can wield the spear that holds the soul devourer. Jilbages hears that rising to the demon throne depends on pure strength, not blood ties. The contract with Carnival supports this, as proud demons would never accept obeying a weaker one. Only the true Demon King can wield the spear that houses the soul devourer. The Demon King's devastating power comes from the forbidden magic of the Soul Devourer, which steals the souls of dead enemies and transforms them into power. Because of this, the Pan-Human Alliance couldn't turn the tide of war. Gradually, the Demon King became a fearsome enemy who pushed battle lines back. Jilbages discovers the true source of the Demon King's power is not the king himself, but the spear he carries, the Spear of the Soul Devourer. This unique weapon was created by the first Demon King, Lajas, at the cost of his own life, becoming an incomparable relic. Jilbages wonders what would happen if the Demon King's spear were destroyed or lost. The tutor says nothing in the world could destroy it, and that the king would never part with it. However, Jilbages insists. But suppose it was lost. The tutor concludes that if the king lost his terrifying power, the entire demon race would likely lose its unity. Jilbages reacts with an intense look, surprising and unsettling everyone around. The tutor brightens, noticing Jilbages' sudden interest in knowledge, and mentions a book that details the subject. While searching for it, her casual gesture makes the boy visibly embarrassed. The tutor pulls a book from inside her own body, revealing she literally functions as a living library. She hands Jilbajas a tome written by the first demon king himself, containing the kingdom's foundations. The boy is impressed by its unusual nature. The tutor gives Jilbajas a copy of the book Chronicle of the Demon Kingdom's Foundation, a historical record written by the first demon king. Jilbajas studies the book carefully and wonders if he will understand it. He reflects on how, in the past, humans knew very little about demons' war was always the priority, but information arrived too late. As he flips through the book, Jilbajas is surprised to discover the true origin of the demon's power. Yet, a deep question crosses his mind: why? After all, did demons invade humans in the first place? Jilbajas is shocked to read that demons themselves considered their race barbaric and nothing extraordinary, even though they had abilities. He is even more shocked by such frankness coming from the demon king himself, since demons generally are too proud to admit such things. The librarian comments that the first demon king was eccentric even by demon standards. The book continues revealing a primitive and brutal past for demons. They lived in caves, covered with skins, eating meat roasted over fire, with a routine limited to hunting. Moreover, they constantly patrolled and fought over small sacred hunting grounds. That was all the life they knew. The page ends on a dark, reflective note, to be continued, promising more revelations about the demon kingdom's origin. A powerful demon was born in an isolated mountain tribe. From early on, he stood out for his strength and was seen as the future leader. However, he grew tired of the constant disputes among tribe members over limited hunting territory. In the castle library, Jilbajas continues focused on reading the Demon Kingdom Chronicle, while his tutor rests leaning against the shelves. The atmosphere is quiet, charged with the tension of knowledge about to be revealed. While a group of demons rests exhausted after a hunt, one of them watches the sky, contemplating birds flying freely. In silence, he reflects, awakening a determined look suggesting a longing for something beyond the tribal routine. The young demon, curious about the world beyond the mountains, begins to question where the birds came from and where they were going. However, everyone in the village ignores or doesn't know what lies beyond, preferring to focus on daily survival. Thus, routine tribal fights continued. Initially driven by curiosity and then by an uncontrollable urge, the young demon decides to leave his homeland in search of the unknown beyond the mountains. Even being one of the strongest of his race, the young demon almost succumbs to harsh conditions crossing the snow-covered mountains. After much effort and suffering, he reaches the top and sees, for the first time, a vast green land beyond the horizon. Upon reaching the lands beyond the mountains, the young demon finds a grand civilization built by natives. Impressed, he notices some are hostile while others show friendship. The young demon learns to read and write and adapts to the new culture. He is fascinated by a dwarf blacksmith and forms a friendship with an eccentric elf, with whom he starts traveling. Expanding his worldview, something ancient awakens in his memory. The young demon concludes his race will continue living like savages if isolated. Determined to change this, he decides to conquer the civilization and fertile lands he found, seeking to pull his people out of barbarism. He realizes good intentions alone aren't enough to unite his race because demons don't follow logic or reason. He concludes only overwhelming force could guide them. With this, he sets out toward a desolate border, resolved to seek the power needed for his goal. The man finds a mysterious portal connecting to the demon world, home to powerful entities. This is the next step in his quest for absolute power. Crossing the portal, the man is met with violence and thrown into a brutal, endless battle against demons. The bloody fight attracts a powerful devil who delights in the chaos. A powerful demon god called Cannibal appears before the man and offers a spell that can devour souls and turn them into power. In exchange, he demands entertainment through the man's way of living. The man seals a contract with the demon god and emerges from the dark portal, destroying everything on his way back to his homeland. He devastates kingdoms and races along the way. He destroys the human kingdom, annexes beastman territory, subjugates goblins and ogres, burns the elven forest, defeats dragons, and offers part of his power to the demon god Cannibal through the dark portal. Finally, the man conquers everything, proclaims the union of demons, and ascends the throne, becoming king. The now demon king calls the demon kings, urging them to unite their peoples. He preaches not to underestimate weaker races, but to learn from them. With words of conquest, he states the demon race can only unite with a common cause, and that cause must be invading and dominating other civilizations, so demons don't return to barbarism. The young man reads the writings left by the old king and understands the logic behind his words. If demons stop fighting external enemies, they will return to barbarism, fighting among themselves and killing their own brothers. Constant war thus becomes the only way to maintain unity and demon civilization. The young man shows intense anger and desire for revenge against demons, blaming them for destroying his homeland and killing everyone. He states the demons' fitting end is a cruel fate, making clear his deep resentment and determination to face them. He read a book about the first demon king that gave him deep insight into the leader's thoughts. He found the reading very informative and moving, recognizing its value for his understanding. The young man reflects on the reading and realizes that despite his inner rage, he managed to stay calm to absorb knowledge. He discovers humanity won't be destroyed as long as he grows strong. The second reason for the Demon King's army's strength is the existence of the Black Portal, from which countless demons reinforce their troops. The demon girl recognizes she also came through this portal. The Demon King's army invasion slowed over the years, leading the Pan-Human Alliance to hold many military meetings to understand enemy intentions. Despite the apparent slow advance, the young man sees this pause as a grace period important for his planning. He concludes that at the invasion's end, a civil war will likely erupt, putting the Demon King's own army at risk. The girl explains demons cannot cross the portal alone. On the demon world side, the portal's fate is uncertain. Therefore, they need someone on this side to act as a link. Hearing this, the boy decides what he must do. The boy concludes he must destroy the Black Portal and break the demons' fragile unity. Doing so will give the Pan-Human Alliance a real chance to win the war. Even without knowing how to destroy the dimensional portal, the boy feels he received a miracle and decides he must fulfill this mission. He says he understands the first Demon King's thoughts and calls him by name Ryukia's. He decides to ruin all the demons' hopes, promising to reduce them to an existence even more miserable than beasts, plunging them back into the Dark Ages. With the intention of degrading and destroying the Demon Kingdom, he states he will write his autobiography once his mission is complete. While the protagonist prepares to enter the demon world, the city celebrates lively. Papers fly, smiles spread, and everyone rejoices at the arrival of the awaited moment. He plans to write his autobiography titled The Chronicle of the Destroyer of the Demon Kingdom. Jilbejas impresses with his early magical power, awakening admiration from his tutor, compared to Prince Ioijas, who made a contract with a demon at 8 years old. Jilbejas is about to surpass that feat at 5. Expectations around him grow, with forecasts that his talent will far exceed previous records. Jilbejas is encouraged by his tutor to make a contract with a demon, sparking curiosity about which entity he will choose. Meanwhile, the ex-hero reflects on his mission, to destroy the Demon King and his kingdom, even if he must make a pact with a demon to gain power. For him, the end justifies the means. Jilbejas is surprised by the sudden decision that before entering the palace, he must go to the demon world to choose a contractor to represent him. Although expecting this at some point, he didn't imagine it would happen so soon. In a huge demon palace, a bored entity complains about its excessive freedom and accompanying monotony. Lying down, she expresses her boredom with a long sigh, making clear she seeks something to break her routine. A powerful entity, appearing sleepy and surrounded by crystals, remains isolated on a stone throne. In her solitary thoughts, she feels that if things continue as they are, something within her will change drastically. The scene ends with a promise of continuation in Volume 2. In the past, the world was dominated by demons of the Dark Clan, led by the Demon King, who waged incessant wars of invasion. In response, a powerful alliance called the Pan-Human Alliance emerged, uniting various races against the demonic threat. Alexander, a simple villager whose village was destroyed by demons, vowed revenge. He became the Alliance's hero and faced the Demon King, but met a tragic fate. He died horribly. After dying in his fight against the Demon King, Alexander was mysteriously reborn as Jilbajas, the enemy's 7th prince. With the soul of a hero in a demon body, he decides not to follow his new father's path of destruction, but to sink the Dark Clan into ruin and destroy the Demon Kingdom from within. With the determination inherited from his past life, Jilbajas declares the beginning of the Demon Kingdom's downfall, starting his mission to destroy it from inside. At the Demon King's castle, a woman stretches calmly on the balcony, enjoying the pleasant weather while waiting for the start of an important event. A few days after being instructed to find a demon to contract with, Jilbajas prepares for the journey. Although the sun is already setting, his companion considers the time early, revealing the difference in time perception between humans and demons. Jilbajas reflects on how he has grown used to life as a demon after 5 years, though he still doesn't understand certain demon habits, like the awakening dinner. Leaving the Demon King's castle for the first time, he prepares for his journey to the demon's nest. Jilbajas sees a flying creature approaching and mistakes it for a white dragon, but is soon corrected. It is a red bronze-scaled wyvern. The woman accompanying him mounts the winged creature to start the journey. Jilbajas is surprised to see a member of the proud dragon race resting its head on the ground, acting as a mount. The woman asks about his experience with wyverns and says he will soon discover how battles can be enjoyable. After being defeated by the first Demon King, the dragon race swore loyalty to the demons. However, that wasn't enough. The demons took control of the dragon egg hatcheries beneath the Demon King's castle, keeping the eggs hostage to ensure submission. The dragon race, once masters of the mountains and sky, was defeated by demons, had their habitat taken, and their eggs held hostage. Though they seem loyal, they simply have no way to resist. Jilbajas realizes that if he holds something equivalent to these hostages, he might use it to his advantage later. Jilbajas notes he has no plan yet, but observes something important. Platifia comments on the discomfort of going out in the sun. Lasuriel appears unexpectedly, recognized by Platifia, who believes she came to say goodbye. However, Lasuriel states she isn't there for her. Lasuriel says she came to say goodbye to Jilbajas, the son Platifia is proud of, suggesting it might be his last chance. Jilbajas senses her powerful magical presence and suspects a possible provocation. He deduces Lasuriel is also a consort of the king and mother of another prince. Depending on how he reacts, the situation could escalate quickly. Jilbajas responds to Lasuriel's magical pressure by releasing an equivalent power, stating he will retaliate with the same intensity. Facing this, Lasuriel retreats, mocks the boy's attitude, and calls him an unpleasant child. Lasuriel criticizes Platifa for sending Jilbajas to the demon world so young, calling the decision cruel. Platifa, however, firmly replies she sees no problem, since he is her son. In a provocative tone, Platifa suggests such cruelty would only matter for another consort's son, leaving Lasuriel unsettled. Lasuriel stares closely at Jilbajas and leaves a veiled threat, wishing he returns alive. Shortly after, Platifa reveals Lasuriel is the mother of the first prince, Ioijas. Platifa says Lasuriel tried to scare Jilbajas before his trip to the demon world because she can't stand not being the best at everything. She explains that in this world, spirit influences reality, and entering anxiously can lead to losing the way back. However, Platifa criticizes Lasuriel, saying her wisdom is shallow. Platifa reprimands Lasuriel's attitude, calling it born of fear and pettiness. She encourages Jilbajas, saying he is different from others and is a strong child, motivated. She declares he must become king and show everyone his strength on his own. Despite uncertainty about what awaits in the demon world and the internal conflict between body and soul, Jilbajas stays firm. He declares that compared to his attempt to defeat the Demon King, what he now faces is nothing. Without hesitation, Platifa picks up Jilbajas and sits with him in the wyvern cell, surprising the boy. With a determined expression, she says not to waste time and to depart immediately. Jilbajas protests that he didn't get to sit behind Platifa, lamenting not being able to enjoy her perfume during the flight. Even so, he soon delights in the feeling of freedom in the air and admits he is comfortable on his first flight. During the journey, Platifa affectionately strokes Jilbages' head, which annoys him after all. He insists he is already a 30-year-old man. Meanwhile, other tamers struggle with their own dragons, including one refusing to use a saddle out of pride. One tamer shouts while trying to hold the dragon in flight that his hands are falling off, contrasting with Jilbages' calm. During the flight, Jilbages compares his current experience with a previous one on a white dragon. Realizing wyverns might be better flyers, this ride is much smoother. Other passengers also express surprise at the calmness, saying it hardly seems like their first time flying. Meanwhile, Platifa keeps stroking Jilbages' head proudly, irritating him since he insists she stop the repeated affection. While flying, Jilbages observes the land below and notices the former Beast Kingdom has been conquered by demons. He sees humans seemingly kept as slaves and few demons present, limited to feudal lords. Platifa explains this is the method used to govern conquered territories. Jilbages and Platifa arrive at a city where she says the dark portal is just ahead. Surprised, he notes the portal is in the city center and is shocked by the place's dilapidated state. Platifa leads Jilbages to Cosmo Lodge, a city for demons and devils. She explains the place serves for devils to adapt to the human world and houses relatives of demons who went to the demon world. At last, they reach their destination. Jilbages encounters the black portal for the first time and is shocked by its imposing and frightening appearance. He confirms it is no illusion, it really is the portal to the demon world. Jilbages looks at the portal and describes it as a tear in the world itself, something completely strange and different from what he imagined. Platifa calls him to follow, but he hesitates, saying he won't enter. Jilbages explains he cannot enter the demon world because of how many demons he already carries in his soul. Platifa reveals that if he enters again, he might not return and will have to wait in the city. Despite her concern, Jilbages interrupts her cheerfully and heads alone toward the portal. Platifa is impressed by Jilbages' calm before entering the demon world. She shares she also felt intimidated the first time and advises him about demon contracts. Some start with imps, others seal pacts with archdemon. She assures he will find the demon he needs most. Jilbages listens and confidently agrees. Jilbages says goodbye determinedly and crosses the dark portal toward the demon world while Platifa silently watches his departure. Jilbages floats inside the dark portal, feeling disoriented as if drunk. He reaffirms his identity, pushing away the name Alexan, and recognizes he is in a strange, distorted place within the portal itself. Jilbages finally passes through the portal and arrives in the demon world, seriously facing the unknown forest before him. Jilbages observes the crimson sky and a black sun emitting a strangely bright light. Confused by the demon world's environment, he notices the surrounding forest and simple-looking creatures he cannot identify. Jilbages feels his body shrink as he walks through the demon world forest. The environment strangely envelops him, increasing his anxiety as if reality itself is distorted around him. While exploring the strange demon world forest, Jilbages is surprised by a mysterious man in a tailcoat and top hat who silently appears behind him. Confused and curious, Jilbages greets him and asks his identity. Jilbages is approached by an elegant being who introduces himself as Otigos, the demon guide. Though initially distracted by his distinct appearance, Jilbages formally introduces himself as a demon prince. Jilbages tries to focus to understand if Otigos is the demon he most needs, but cannot get any information from reading his magical energy. He reflects on using sounds as guidance in the darkness. Jilbages attempts to use sound reflection to analyze the environment, but is overwhelmed by stimuli from all directions. Although he can sense the ground and trees, he cannot comprehend Otigos' magical power, which is too strong to measure. Otigos watches the young man with interest. Realizing he is an unusual visitor, Otigos declares that regardless of who Jilbages is, His duty is to guide visitors to where they belong. He then extends his hand and announces he will reveal the way, making a magical symbol glow marking the start of Jilbage's journey in the demon world. After the path revealing spell, Jilbage sees a figure crash to the ground with a thud. Watching curiously, Otigos calmly approaches the fallen body, touches it, and revives it with a gesture. Then, without much explanation, he points straight ahead and says, "It's that way," guiding Jilbage to the next step of his journey. Jilbage questions whether the guidance from Otigos the Guidance Devil was really valid, pointing in an unexpected direction. Otigos confirms confidently, but admits he does not know exactly what awaits Jilbage there, other than that it is beyond the horizon, where the black sun rises. He states that predicting the type of demon or what lies ahead is beyond his authority, emphasizing his role is to guide, not reveal destiny. Jilbage accepts Otigos' guidance and departs, despite having no other clues. As he walks, he doubts the path indicated. Otigos asks about his goal and warns it may take centuries to reach it, wishing him a good day as he departs. Jilbage reflects on Otigos' question and says he has already chosen his goal: to defeat the Demon King, destroy the Demon Kingdom, and gain the power needed to do so. As he moves through the forest, Jilbage suddenly speeds up and notices the landscape around him changing. Surprised, he tries to understand what is happening but loses control amid the sudden transformation of the scenery. Jilbage swiftly crosses the distorted space, where the scenery changes chaotically. Mountains, rivers, caves, deserts, and seas alternate before his eyes as he heads west toward the origin of the demon world. Jilbage stops before an immense wall, whose gates open by themselves in his presence. Observing the opening, he understands he is being invited to enter. Jilbage enters an ancient ruined stone palace. As he walks through empty corridors, he notices strange stone monuments resembling tombstones. Upon reaching a large door, he feels he has finally reached the expected place. Jilbage realizes he is trapped in a repetitive cycle inside the hall, opening the same door multiple times and returning to the same point. Frustrated, he shouts angrily and demands it stop, losing patience with the absurd situation. Jilbage finally enters a different room and faces a girl sitting before a throne. Surprised, he notes that, for the first time since arriving, the scene has changed. The girl also watches him, curious about the unexpected presence. Jilbage carefully observes the figure before him, a girl too young to be called a woman, but with a hypnotic charm preventing her from being seen as just a child. He tries to analyze her form and power, but, as before, cannot understand anything. This only confirms his suspicion. She is extraordinary. Jilbage wonders if that demon girl is the ideal partner he seeks. Intrigued, he tries to understand what she means, but she only returns the question repeatedly, surprised by his presence. Soon, she seriously asks, "Why is a human here?" The girl begins to laugh uncontrollably, filling the room with echoing laughter. When she finally stops, gasping, she points and says the reason for Jilbage's presence is obvious. The girl points to Jilbage and tells him to look at himself. A mirror appears before him, revealing a distorted and dark image. Shocked, he recognizes that figure as his true form. Seeing himself in the mirror, Jilbage is surprised by a figure that turns to him and questions his identity. He is startled to realize the door he entered through has vanished. The girl merely watches with an enigmatic smile. When trying to escape, Jilbage's mirrored figure is restrained by a magical chain while the girl reprimands him. In silence, she provokes him until he finally responds, calling himself Alexander, the hero of the human race. Jilbage, without control of his body, begins speaking compulsively. He reveals he was defeated by the Demon King and now is reborn as prince of the demon race. The girl watches in surprise, recognizing him as a reincarnated being with preserved consciousness. The girl comments that the cannibal's curse couldn't fully digest Jilbage's soul, surprised by his tenacity. She admits she underestimated humans. Then, with a curious smile, she asks what his true purpose is for being there. Forced by the curse, Jilbage reveals he entered the demon world seeking power. He wishes to defeat the Demon King and took advantage of his reincarnation for that. The girl, surprised, concludes he plans a rebellion against the very Lord of Hell. Jilbage reflects on the last 5 years, revealing he has endured living among the demons who destroyed his homeland and killed his mother. He eats their food, lives alongside them all while hiding his true identity. Still, he believes that as long as he keeps the truth hidden, there is a chance for victory. Jilbages finds himself in a delicate situation, reflecting that being exposed by an unknown demon, there would not be a good end. Confused and cautious, he asks, "Who are you?" In response, the mysterious figure imposing and surrounded by floating crystals smiles slightly and introduces herself. "My name is Antindixis." The enigmatic figure with long hair and a serene expression finally reveals her true identity, the demon goddess of taboo. Faced with this impactful revelation, Jilbages watches perplexed, surprised by the power and presence of the entity now before him. To be continued. The scene shows an old book being flipped, while a narration contextualizes the historical impact of a dark contract. For humans, it was a disaster. For demons, a legend. The text reveals the first demon king followed a tragic and powerful path by forming a pact with the demon god of predation, also called Cannibal. It was this contract that accelerated his progress and solidified his legend. Meanwhile, in a library, a female figure watches and begins to comment, saying, "By the way," signaling more revelations to come. The horned boy, probably Alexander, is curious after his reading and asks, "Are demon gods and demons related? Or are they superior to demons or something like that?" As he tries to understand infernal hierarchies, the girl with a demon mask begins laughing repeatedly with a foo, foo, foo. Her expression is amused, almost mocking, surrounded by stylized planets and stars suggesting she finds the question naive or funny. Alexander, confused and perhaps a little annoyed, replies, "Hey, what are you laughing at?" Jilbages, questioning whether demon gods are relatives or superior to demons, provokes a violent reaction. An explosion of energy erupts accompanied by a shout of blasphemy. Sophia, shocked and furious, severely rebukes him, saying it's unthinkable to compare common demons to demon gods. She demands he never say such a thing again, making clear those entities are on a much higher level. Jilbages is surprised to learn Antindixis is one of the most feared entities, one of the demon gods. These beings are linked to a unique concept, having surpassed the height of power and ruling the demon world with countless demons under their control, being pillars of infernal order. Antindixis provokes Jilbages, saying it would be fun to expose him to the demons. She points out that he, an ancient human hero consumed by revenge, is now a demon prince with a new face. The tension rises as he desperately tries to find a way out. Jilbages questions Antindixis about her obedience to demons. Since she is one of the demon world's rulers, she replies that because of an agreement made by Cannibal, they must cooperate with demons. However, with a fierce look, she makes clear she will never accept being submissive to them. Antindixis says demons came begging for strength and that they are only honoring the agreement. Despite that, she acknowledges the demon world is more active than ever thanks to the power flowing there, and as a ruler, she considers it her duty to keep the territory prosperous. Jilbages senses Antindixis is bored and thinks to use that to his advantage. He considers creating something more interesting than simply being handed over to the demons, betting on her curiosity to survive. Antindixis questions Jilbages about his desire to become her contractor. Despising common motives like self-defense, she declares the ideal contractor for her is someone capable of breaking taboos, and not just any weak taboo, but a true and daring taboo. Jilbages faces Antindixis with conviction and states that if her ideal is someone who breaks taboos, then no one is more fitting than him to be her contractor. Jilbages reflects on his identity as a hero, someone who should protect humanity. However, to maintain his disguise and position as Demon Prince, he sadly admits he will be forced to abandon innocence. Jilbages walks determined, reflecting that he will use even those he should protect as stepping stones to reach his final goal. He accepts he will break taboos and eliminate allies, if necessary, an unavoidable price for a plan long in the making. Jilbages declares himself the Demon Prince, someone who should inherit the Demon King's will and serve the kingdom. Yet, even aware of his role, he firmly states he will bring destruction. Jilbages walks determined, declaring he will betray the kingdom, break the greatest taboos, and destroy everything including his parents and siblings. Even as a prince, he chooses the path of total betrayal. Upon saying this aloud, he realizes with shock that he spoke it out loud. Despite having developed feelings for the night elves, beastmen servants, Sophia, and even Platifa, Jilbages decides he will drag them all to hell. With his own hands, he promises to break all taboos, whether as humanity's hero or demon prince. Jilbages confidently presents himself before the demon goddess, claiming to be the most suitable contractor. After evaluating him, Antindixis admits few would be able to surpass him. Antindixis states that to convince a demon goddess, it's not enough to be worthy, one must offer an equivalent price. She explains there are two ways to seal a contract: give your magical power or something of equal value to the demon. Antindixis rejects trivial offers like power or soul, demanding something more charming and convincing. In response, Jilbages proposes a bold price: he will destroy the dark portal. Antindixis reacts surprised by the proposal to destroy the dark portal. Though doubting Jilbages' sincerity, she listens to his justification: to weaken the demons and ruin the kingdom. In the end, despite suspicion, she agrees to cooperate. Jilbages intensifies his proposal to Antindixis by appealing directly to the chaotic and destructive nature of the demon god. He paints a scenario where she, as one of the demon world's rulers, can ruin deals, drag the dignity of other demons through the mud, provoke widespread despair, all presented as the perfect opportunity to break a taboo. The timely provocation seems effective. Antindixis explodes in fury at Jilbages' proposal. She reacts intensely, almost desperately, imagining the consequences of cooperating to destroy the dark portal, the demon world's collapse, young demons suffering, and her own reputation's ruin as a demon goddess. Still, the fact she is so shaken repeating the implications aloud suggests Jilbages has struck a weak spot. Antindixis is overwhelmed by intense pleasure and excitement at Jilbages' proposal. Her body trembles, and she surrenders completely to the sensation, admitting how much it delights her. After leaving Antindixis' room, Jilbages silently reflects on what happened. With a neutral expression, he stares into space for a moment, then bluntly declares, "Pervert." Still recovering from excitement, Antindixis confirms the contract with Jilbages, recognizing his determination. She also promises to keep her true origin secret, emphasizing she will do so only because she expects the promised payment. Relieved, Jilbages sighs, aware he got what he needed for now. Antindixis teases Jilbages about his past life, questioning if he really remembers anything significant. Though he confidently says he remembers clearly, she challenges him with direct questions about concrete details like the name of the village where he was born, his parents, or a precious friend. Facing this, Jilbages hesitates, showing his memory might not be as clear as he thought. Jilbages tries to answer Antindixis' questions about his past life. Although faces and moments come to mind, the names jumble except one, Claire. He cites her as his mentor but admits he had many teachers, like the orphanage teacher, the order master, and the holy church instructor. His memory falters on specific details. Jilbages tries to recover his memories but fails. He feels as if worms are eating away at them, preventing clear recall. He mentions a name, Instructor Miranda, but the rest slips away. Antindixis then says that's exactly what she meant when mentioning his soul was fragmented. Antindixis reveals the truth about Jilbages' soul. He was devoured by a malicious spell from Cannibal, but his soul survived thanks to his desire for revenge. However, it is damaged, and the holes in his memory will keep growing while he lives as a demon. Still, she gives him a chance to quit the contract without consequences. Jilbages silently faces the choice. Jilbages firmly states he remembers the day his village burned and the vow of revenge he made. For him, that is enough. Antindixis accepts his decision calmly, declaring that it suffices and agreeing to proceed with the contract. Jilbages climbs the steps determined. Antindixis descends from her throne, floating slowly, approaching to seal the contract. They face each other seriously, ready to formalize the pact that may change the demon kingdom's fate. Jilbages and Antindixis seal the contract with a firm handshake. The alliance between the demon prince and the demon goddess is officially formed, marking the beginning of a new stage in their journey. At the decisive moment of the contract's formation, Jilbages interrupts the solemn gesture with a sudden movement, pulling his hand away from Antindixis. With a serious look, he calmly says, "No, wait." Before sealing the contract, Jilbages asks a crucial question. Does Antindixis's power really come from breaking taboos? The goddess confirms enthusiastically, explaining that her authority grows whenever taboos are broken, whether in the demon world or the real world. As her contractor, Jilbages will also gain more power as he breaks these taboos. Additionally, new taboos may be created as he gets used to this power. Jilbages realizes that after the contract, he can no longer blink since blinking has become a taboo. Antindixis explains her magic imposes or restricts actions, as she did earlier when forcing him to speak. This authority can be resisted depending on the target's magical power and awareness of resistance, but it remains incredibly strong. Jilbages recognizes the pack's power with a direct thought, strong. Jilbages perceives how absurd and powerful Antindixis's magic is, a spell imposing taboos without rituals or chants. Unable to blink, his eyes begin to dry, causing great discomfort. As he suffers, the goddess enjoys his agony, mocking him sarcastically and calling him pathetic, taking pleasure in his discomfort provocatively. Jilbages despairs, realizing the magic's effect on the goddess's eyes, who admits she also suffers from the no-blinking taboo. She explains that, as the goddess of taboos herself, she is even more limited by the restrictions she imposes. An extreme violation, like making breathing a taboo, would kill both instantly. Thus, she accepts Jilbages' proposal since, unlike her, he can directly challenge taboos. Jilbages agrees to proceed with the contract. Despite the friendlier atmosphere, he recognizes the goddess is still a dangerous and unstable entity. Cautious, he decides to seal the deal quickly to secure her power before she changes her mind. Before the contract is finalized, Jilbages asks how much of the goddess's authority will be granted to him. Though uncertain, he says the more, the better. After all, he has no choice. The goddess smiles and prepares to complete the pact. Jilbages interrupts the goddess at the last moment with a doubt. How much power will she transfer to him? She answers with a metaphor about a container and asks how much she should fill it. With no alternatives, the young man chooses the maximum possible. Both prepare to seal the contract. Jilbages and the goddess formalize the pact. She declares that the hero Alexander will receive power in the name of the goddess Antindixis, while he promises she will receive taboos. With that, the contract is officially sealed. Right after the contract is sealed, Jilbages is caught off guard by something unexpected. The goddess smiles maliciously and, with a sinister laugh, delivers a sudden strike. Before he can react, she declares it's already too late, and the impact hits him squarely. After the goddess's attack, chaotic energy floods Jilbages' body. He feels as if a murky, corrupted flow, filled with the hidden and rotten principles of the world, is invading him. This sinister force begins to restructure him from within, causing intense pain while transforming his being irreversibly. As the demon goddess's energy continues invading his body, Jilbages feels his soul drained. Despite this, his body resists more than expected, absorbing power never before granted to another. Amid cries of pain and confusion, he feels as if drowning in the vastness of this dark power, pushed to the limits of his existence. After receiving the demon goddess's power, Jilbages collapses, breathless and completely transformed. The goddess watches with surprise and confusion, unable to tell if he is still human, demon, or something different. Looking at himself, Jilbages sees the image of his former heroic form Alexander in his prime reflected before him. Even without apparent external changes, something deep inside him has drastically altered. Alexander manifests demonic traits, horns, skin, and demon god eyes, and is surprised by the transformation. He confirms the change won't affect his form in the real world, to which the goddess replies only slightly, which is normal in demon contracts. However, she warns, if he returns to the demon world, he won't be able to come back to the real world. Alexander accepts the conditions, satisfied with the result. Alexander comments that it's time to return. The goddess agrees with regret, and they exchange smiles. Suddenly, a loud crash grabs both their attention, interrupting the farewell moment. Alexander is surprised to find that Antindixis also intends to go to the real world. Excited, she reveals she prepared everything in advance to save energy, making clear she's determined to accompany him. Alexander activates the portal to return to the real world, but Antindixis throws herself on him and crosses together. He panics, realizing the goddess will now be stuck with him all the time, while she laughs, completely carefree. Alexander and Antindixis finally reach the dark portal of the demon world. Exhausted, he complains about the long journey back, while she, indifferent, says it wasn't a big deal. As they near the reunion with Platifa, Alexander is warned that the contract with the demon goddess must remain secret, as revealing it would cause problems. Antindixis explains he can pretend to have made a pact with a common demon, using his second name as a disguise, but he will only have full access to power if he uses the contract's true name, Alexander. Seeking to keep the contract secret, Alexander decides to say he made a pact with Anti, the god of restriction, instead of the god of taboo. The demon goddess reacts dramatically and exaggeratedly to the suggestion, feeling humiliated to be treated as a common demon. Alexander scolds the goddess for her inappropriate behavior, especially in front of Platifa. However, by degrading the god of taboo, a new effect emerges. Alexander's power increases. Excited, he calls her to continue the journey, while she shows enthusiasm seeing him act like a demon. The goddess says goodbye to the demon world with a determined look. Beside Alexander, she crosses the portal, leaving her homeland behind and announcing her departure for an indefinite time. Alexander and the goddess return to the real world. While he once again finds the sunlight strange, she comments on the uncomfortable feeling of being in this plane after so long. Both prepare to move forward. Back in the real world, Alexander and Antindixis look for Platifa, the mother of the goddess's body. They find her sleeping deeply in a cafe, unaware of her daughter's return. Platifa wakes exhausted and confused, not recognizing her daughter. Seeing Alexander with demon horns, she becomes alert and demands to know who taught him about demons. Platifa asks personal questions to confirm her daughter's identity. After hearing the correct answers, she finally recognizes Jilbajas and embraces him emotionally, despite being confused by his transformed appearance. To explain his changed appearance, Jilbajas claims accelerated growth. Platifa believes the explanation and cries with relief, hugging her daughter with emotion, while Anti watches the scene ironically. While only a few days have passed for Jilbajas in the demon world, half a year has elapsed in the real world. Initially, Platifa was calm but grew worried over time. Other mothers of princes mocked the situation, visiting Platifa with malicious comments about her son, believing he had disappeared forever. Platifa suffered a mental collapse due to Jilbajas' disappearance. Unable to eat or sleep, she spent half a year suffering, with no place in the Demon King's castle, only waiting and praying for her son's return. Jilbajas returns home with Anti, whom he introduces as the devil of restriction he contracted with. The scene looks like a son bringing a rebellious girlfriend to meet his mother, while Anti dramatizes being treated like a low-ranking demon. Platifa recognizes Jilbajas' increased magical power and confirms Anti is a high-ranking demon, though a demon god. Despite not revealing many details, she deduces Anti's authority involves restriction magic, since she could impose limits on her own contractor. Impressed, she praises Jilbajas for his achievement on his first demon world visit. Jilbajas casually comments that he can no longer enter the demon world due to contract overload, as his spiritual vessel is full. Platifa, shocked by the situation's severity, panics and demands to know what Anti did, showing strong concern about her son's choices' consequences. Platifa angrily explains that because of the contract with Anti, Jilbajas can no longer make pacts with other demons, drastically limiting his potential. He will be stuck using Anti's authority and cannot recruit subordinates. This compromises his chance to stand out. Still, Anti minimizes the situation sarcastically, calling it all pathetic, while Platifa faces reality seriously. Jilbajas reacts strongly to the word pathetic, a trigger for demons as it hits their pride directly. He states only those who achieve success by their own merit have the right to use it. In a tense, challenging moment, he faces Platifa and firmly says, "Want to test me then?" showing he won't accept being belittled easily, even under imposed criticism and limits. At the peak of tension between Jilbages and Platifa, an imminent confrontation is dramatically interrupted. Platifa tries to attack, spinning with her spear, but is quickly stopped by a figure who decisively appears with authority, saying, "Spearmanship is prohibited." Platifa's charge is forcibly halted, while the new character, apparently an authority, with a furious look and unshakable determination, Platifa breaks the chains binding her. In an explosive move, she advances and lands a powerful direct blow on her opponent, surprising Jilbages with her sudden strength. After the devastating blow, Platifa's opponent recovers, acknowledging her strength. With a serious look, she admits this is the true power of a high-class devil used as a disguise. She recognizes Platifa's strength and admits defeat, while Jilbages reflects on the weight of the word prohibited, realizing his ally's power surpasses common limits. Following the previous tension, Anti adopts a confident stance and declares with conviction she will make Jilbages a magnificent demon king. Platifa watches silently, visibly shaken by the firmness and ambition of her son's ally, understanding the depth of that oath. After recognizing Anti's strength, Platifa admits Jilbages gained a great ally. Even surprised and somewhat relaxed, the young demon confirms it wasn't easy. Without wasting time, Platifa decides it's time to immediately return to the Demon King's castle. Worried about the situation and lost time, she stresses the seriousness of her son's disappearance and the need for rest. While preparing to return to the castle, Platifa reveals severely that Jilbages was about to be officially declared dead. Surprised and confused, the young man only responds with an "A," ending the chapter on a comedic and abrupt tone. Platifa urgently informs that Jilbages will soon be officially declared dead. With no time to rest, they hurry toward the Demon King's castle, aware that any delay could cause major complications. During the journey back to the castle, Anti falls asleep exhausted. Jilbages takes the moment to clarify something important. His alliance with Anti is not to become the next Demon King, but to defeat the current one. He emphasizes this point to avoid any misunderstandings. Jilbages reflects on his destiny. In seeking revenge, defeating the Demon King, and killing his brothers, he will inevitably become the next Demon King, even betraying his own mother in the process. However, he makes clear he doesn't care what happens to him after destroying the Demon Kingdom. His sole focus is to fulfill his promise and achieve his goal, no matter the cost. Jilbages returns to the castle accompanied by Anti, who recovers with a simple nap and leaves to report her survival to the king. She warns him not to appear with her at the castle, as his identity as a demon god might be discovered if other demons recognize him. Surprised, Jilbages accepts with slight irony, while Anti assures only other demon gods know her face. Jilbages reflects on the risk of being recognized, but is reassured remembering few have seen a demon god's face. While walking through the castle, he is surprised by Sophia's sudden arrival, who enters excited and relieved to see him after so long. Sophia affectionately scolds Jilbages for taking so long and already forgetting his studies. Surprised by how much he's grown, she bombards him with questions about his absence and his pact with the devil. Excited, she introduces herself to Anti as head of education, showing enthusiasm to meet her. Anti suddenly appears in front of everyone, floating inside an imposing aura. Her presence is so overwhelming that Sophia immediately faints. The others are shocked when they recognize her identity. She is none other than Antindinos, the feared demon taboo goddess. Jilbages is surprised to have been identified so quickly, even though he did not recognize Anti himself. Confused, Sophia asks why Anti knows her. Anti approaches and explains that, when she was just a newborn and fearless, she once broke into Sophia's home out of pure curiosity. Sophia recognizes Anti as the little troublemaker who invaded her house years ago. When she was the size of a pea, she remembers how Anti did whatever she wanted, scribbled on the walls, and read her books. Annoyed, Sophia says she personally taught Anti what fear is and kicked her out. Nostalgic and emotional, Anti rubs her face against Sophia, celebrating their reunion. Anti grabs Sophia and, with a calm smile, suggests killing her. The proposal shocks Sophia, while Jilbages coldly considers the risk of their contract with the taboo goddess leaking. Facing the threat, he concludes the answer is obvious. Jilbages stops them from killing Sophia. explaining she is his education supervisor and still has much to learn from her. He also warns that killing his mother's contracted demon would cause trouble when they return. The demon understands and accepts his decision. Sophia reveals that, because of the contract, she cannot keep secrets that harm her mistress. Jilbajas understands that his identity must remain hidden, since a pact with a god demon could raise suspicion among the prince's factions and threaten his position in the succession. Jilbajas concludes that the secret is not the god demon's identity itself, but the contract's content so powerful it could even bring the taboo goddess into the present world. Sophia realizes this and understands the risk this information represents for Madame. Impressed, Jilbajas notes how much she figured out with so few clues. The demonic entity decides Sophia must be eliminated. Meanwhile, Jilbajas panics, feeling trapped and fearing how he will explain everything to Platifia. Faced with the situation, he decides to reveal the contract's contents to Sophia, seeing it as his only option. The demon goddess reveals she broke a taboo so great that even a god demon would be affected, emphasizing the weight of the contract. Then she pressures Sophia, asking if she likes the demon world. Sophia admits she doesn't. Since there is no knowledge there, she expresses her desire to grow in power and knowledge and confesses her fear of dying. The goddess then confronts her. Do you want to die here? Under pressure, Sophia denies any connection between the story and the demon woman. Submissive, she bows before the entity, who instructs her to better serve both her master and the contractor from now on. Crying, Sophia receives a gesture of consolation despite the implied threat. With introductions over, the characters return to the original plan. Sophia, still crying, tries to intervene but is cut off. Jilbajas, confused and eager for answers, demands an explanation. The demon woman downplays the event, saying Sophia only discovered the contract's content is harmful to the demon world. Nothing deeper. Jilbajas notices Sophia didn't know details like the destruction of the dark portal, yet she still broke a taboo. In the demon world, any slightest threat to the contractor must be reported, no exceptions. Sophia, prioritizing her own interests, distorted the contract, something unacceptable. For a demon seeking knowledge, her mistake was putting her survival above all else, a sin worse than death in that world. Sophia, wishing to rise in rank, finds herself far from her goal. Fully understanding the gravity of her errors, she breaks down in tears. Jilbajas watches frustrated, realizing what should have been just a welcome turned into a much more complicated situation. Suddenly, a powerful demon woman appears, summoning Sophia and Jilbajas. With urgency and authority, she announces that the time has come to grant magic to Jilbajas, leaving both surprised and alert. Platifia explains the situation. Followers of other princes reported the group's return before she could speak, and her anxious reaction was taken as madness. After waiting so long for her son, she ended up confusing someone else with him. To regain her credibility, she decided to grant magic to Jilbajas publicly. Platifia reveals she was accused of going mad and bringing an impostor to replace her son. To prove Jilbajas is truly of her lineage, he must demonstrate inherited magic. She states that both the Ryuju clan and the Royal Olji clan have unique magics passed down for generations, and this will be the final proof of his heritage. Platifia orders Jilbajas to learn the lineage magic to prove his origin. Tired but determined, he accepts the task. Sophia will be responsible for teaching him the details. Jilbajas recognizes the value of this magic, knowing mastering the unique spells of both demon clans will be a strategic advantage. Platifia isolates the area with a sound barrier and reveals that the Ryuju clan specializes in medical treatment in the Demon Kingdom. Therefore, the lineage magic Jilbajas will receive is healing magic. Surprised and incredulous, he reacts with shock upon learning he will inherit this specific power. The story reveals that healing magic is a rare miracle, limited to magic users with a light attribute, like mountain elves and priests, something impossible for members of the Dark Clan. Still, Platifia starts the ritual, transferring this magic to Jilbajas, leaving him stunned as he hears his name and witnesses the unexpected flow of power. Platifia states that, although it was not in her plans to grant the magic so soon, Jilbajas must now receive the Ryuju clan's lineage magic. With the activation of the spell Metaphase, a powerful magical flow surges toward him, marking the start of transferring the rare and sacred healing magic. Looking at his hand after receiving the lineage magic, Jilbages feels the newly awakened power flowing in his body. With astonishment and sudden understanding, he realizes something important and thinks, "So that's how it is," revealing he finally understood the nature of the magic or his own lineage. Platifia reveals the true nature of the lineage magic, a powerful curse that transfers wounds and diseases to another. Its use is limited to weaker targets or those with a strong magical connection and who are under control. This limitation prevented the Ryuju clan from saving the first Demon King, who was defeated by a human hero. Jilbages reflects that if the old Demon King had been able to use Metaphase, the tragedy could have been avoided. However, his immense power caused any curse to be repelled. If he had managed to transfer wounds to the enemy, he would have been the strongest in history. Jilbages realizes how devastating this magic can be in combat and is impressed by its potential. Jilbages asks if he can already use Metaphase, but Platifia explains the curse only works if the target consciously accepts it or is weaker, or if there is a way to bypass the rule. Also, pain or injury must first be transferred back to the user before being redirected. Intrigued, Jilbages sees great potential in the skill and begins imagining creative ways to use it. Platifia guides Jilbages to use the magical connection between the mother and son to activate Metaphase, reminding him she was the one who caused his injury. Focusing on this bond, Jilbages successfully releases the spell, initiating the pain transfer and demonstrating initial mastery of the lineage magic. Jilbages reflects on Metaphase's origin. It was born from the desire of a Ryuju ancestor to ease her son's suffering by transferring his pain onto herself. It was an act of motherly love. However, over time, this pure act became distorted, turning into a powerful and feared curse. Platifia congratulates Jilbages for learning to use Metaphase, declaring him now a beginner mage. As a gift, she promises to send a new maid to his room the next night. He must also learn from Sophia how to command subordinate. With that, Platifia leaves, setting important tasks for his next step of evolution. Platifia informs that in 2 days, Jilbages will receive another unique magic, this time taught by the Olgi clan. She recommends he rests after so many events. Exhausted, Jilbages agrees and reflects on everything he has been through, from the rushed return to the demon world to convincing Sophia and learning magic. Finally, he admits how overwhelmed he feels. Completely drained after an intense day, Jilbages throws himself on the bed, determined to sleep deeply, while a character complains excitedly about still wanting to explore the Demon King's castle. He ignores it, declaring he is exhausted and ready to rest without worrying about the world. In a meeting of influential figures, a report is presented. The last demon prince, believed dead in the demon world, has returned. Rumors spread that Queen Consort Platifia, unable to accept her son's loss, took in a substitute, raising suspicions about the heir's legitimacy. While training to receive the Olgi clan's lineage magic, some court figures discuss Jilbages' progress with disdain or indifference. Despite his advances, the second Princess Rubifia shows total disinterest, implying that to her, none of this matters. The second Princess Rubifia watches Jilbages sleep and mocks all the attention he's getting. To her, whether he is the real heir or an imposter, his inexperience makes him irrelevant. With a provocative look, she ends her speech sarcastically, indicating that in her eyes, he is no threat. Jilbages is gently called while still asleep, but begins waking feeling something heavy and soft on his body. Confused and sleepy, he senses a presence on top of him and tries to understand the situation, wondering, what is this? Starting a new, possibly embarrassing moment. Jilbages wakes up startled to find a huge panting feline on top of him. The creature just greets him with a good morning, but the shock makes him run off in panic while someone else rushes into the room after hearing his screams. Chapter 10 begins, titled The Price of Taboo One. A new character, a feline creature dressed as a maid, is introduced comically. Jilbages and Sophia react with confusion and embarrassment, suggesting this new addition will cause even more unexpected situations in their already chaotic routine. Jilbages and Sophia meet Garnia, a beastman from the White Tiger clan, assigned as his new maid. Still embarrassed from the morning's scare, Jilbajas remembers Platifia mentioning the gift in celebration of his magical achievement. Sophia confirms the details, and Garnia shyly tries to introduce herself formally, while Jilbajas tries to regain his dignity after his scream. Garnia enthusiastically promises to serve Jilbajas with full dedication, even without knowing how much she can offer. Sophia explains that the White Tiger clan is an ethnic minority loyal to the Ryuju clan since ancient times, after being protected from humans who hunted them for their fur. Garnia proudly states she wants to repay that kindness with absolute loyalty. Garnia declares with fervor that she would rather tear out her own heart than betray her master. She says loyalty is the pride and foundation of the White Tiger clan's prosperity. Jilbajas, surprised and silent, watches her intensity before acknowledging her conviction with a simple, "I understand." Jilbajas realizes the real reason behind Garnia's gift. As a beastman, she has low magic resistance, but absolute loyalty, making her the perfect vessel for his metaphase magic. Sophia confirms she was given as a substitute to absorb injuries in his place if anything happens. He concludes this was exactly what he suspected from the start. Jilbajas welcomes Garnia and promises to treat her with respect, which makes her visibly happy. He admits that at first, he thought she was an assassin sent by his brothers. Sophia and the others laugh at his paranoia, and Garnia runs off to prepare the meal, excited about her new role. Jilbajas feels an awkward vibe being alone with Sophia, but she quickly resumes her authoritative attitude and reminds him to study magic after the meal. He smiles, realizing she is still the same. The new tutor, Umu, also introduces herself kindly, and Jilbajas agrees, promising to follow her guidance. Sophia insists Jilbajas get used to studying and forces him to attend the lesson, even while trembling from exhaustion. Garnia also shows interest in learning. The tutor begins the lesson explaining that magic divides into several types, and that the magic Jilbajas learned the day before is lineage magic, a type passed down through clans. Jilbajas feels relieved to learn not every demon has lineage magic, only famous clans possess it. He comments that if everyone had access to these absurd magics, the world would be lost. Sophia explains that everyone born in the Ryuju clan can use metaphase, making them one of the most influential clans in the Demon Kingdom. However, she adds the clan faced difficulties in the past for mistreating the first Demon King. Jilbajas understands that Platifia's obsession with him is linked to frustrations with her marriage, constantly postponed, leading her to want her son to become the next Demon King at any cost. Then he asks about another lineage magic besides the Ryuju clans. Sophia explains the next to be addressed is the Olgi clan's lineage magic, directly connected to the current majesty. Jilbajas discovers that the lineage magic of the Olgi clan is called Introduction, a spell that strengthens the user if they introduce themselves before battle. Surprised, he realizes he has already faced someone who used this magic, revealing their advantage by introducing themselves in combat. Embarrassed for not noticing earlier, Sophia apologizes, while Jilbajas reacts with disbelief. The next day, Jilbajas goes to the military training field as instructed, but does not find Platia there. Intrigued, he watches the surroundings while others train. Still, he seems relaxed, remembering something funny, and continues with a slight smile. Platia introduces Count Oalk, a 280-year-old veteran and former head of the Olgi clan, who will be Jilbajas' instructor in lineage magic. Oalk watches him skeptically, calling him a savage in noble clothes, while Jilbajas politely introduces himself. Without wasting time, Oalk demands an immediate magic demonstration. Oalk starts his demonstration with a booming shout, proclaiming his identity as the former war chief of the Olgi clan. His energetic display causes a powerful shockwave, clearly showing the brutal power behind his clan's lineage magic. Jilbajas tries to endure the power demonstration, but even with his demon body, he can barely stand. The magical pressure released by Oalk is overwhelming, identical to what he felt in the past. Before him, the muscular veteran advances fiercely, leaving the young man completely terrified. After tearing his clothes with his own magical power, Oalk laughs loudly, proud of his brute strength. Jilbajas watches stunned, knowing he will have to master this same wild magic. Oalk then declares that, as a descendant of the Olgi clan, Jilbajas must also become a true warrior, Unexpectedly, Owalk asks a disconcerting question. Are you a virgin? The affirmative answer, confirmed by Placia, leads the old warrior to solemnly declare that this will be a memorable day, as if this had symbolic value for the training. The situation leaves Jilbages visibly speechless. Owalk says that fighting means taking lives, and a warrior must keep his strength at all time. Therefore, he demands that the minimum ritual be fulfilled. Seeing this, Jilbages watches confused as armor is brought to the place. Jilbages is shocked as chained human prisoners are brought in. Owalk explains they are the remnants of the human race captured in battles, suggesting they will be part of the required ritual. Facing the human prisoners, Jilbages receives a dagger. Owalk states that to be a true warrior, he must be able to kill. The weight of the decision falls on the young man, confronted with a cruel expectation. Jilbages is pressured by everyone around to kill the prisoners as part of a ritual called the Graduation of Virgins. While others nostalgically recall their first victims, he is confronted by visions of Sophia and Alexander, challenging him to choose between yielding to the cruel rite or preserving his humanity. Faced with the dilemma, Jilbages makes an unexpected decision. He orders the prisoners freed and forbids any interference in what he is about to do. His attitude surprises everyone as he walks forward to act on his own, torn between obeying the cruel order or protecting the defenseless. Despite the ritual pressure and all eyes on him, Jilbages refuses to kill. Silently, he tells himself he is still a hero, someone who wants to protect humans, not destroy them. Even living among demons, he chooses to preserve life, keeping his essence intact. Jilbages decides to hold back his impulses and not save the humans at that moment. He understands that to destroy the demon kingdom from within, he must keep his position and patience. His refusal to act now is not weakness, it is strategy. He firmly declares himself the son of the demon king Goljas. With conviction in his eyes and a burning desire for change, he affirms his identity as Demon Prince and announces his intent to break the taboo, a decisive milestone in his mission. While the noble demons watch the brutal ritual with expectation, everyone eagerly awaits to see how Prince Jilbages will execute the human prisoners. Unaware of his true intentions, they expect cruelty, but he has a different plan. With tension in the air and all waiting for a brutal execution, Jilbages makes a decision. Before the demonic crowd in broken chains, he stands firmly. He is about to break with the cruel tradition of the demon kingdom, not out of weakness, but silent, strategic strength. The prince does not just want to survive there, he wants to destroy the system from within. As the human prisoners line up, one starts doubting the promise of mercy made by a demon clan member. The others, skeptical and tense, react with anger, convinced it is all a cruel trap. But the revelation shocks them. Their opponent will be the seventh son of the Demon King. Tension grows, knowing they will face a demon prince with power and rank, making survival even less likely. The chained humans receive an unexpected promise. If they win, they may return to their homeland. Surprised and distrustful, they realize they are being used as entertainment. Still, pressured and with no alternatives, they decide to gamble everything on this one chance to survive, even knowing they face forces far beyond their reach. Despite the minimal chance of victory, the humans see an opportunity, however small. Seeing the young opponent approaching, they conclude he appears to be only 14 years old. They trust his combat experience as an advantage, and, though aware they face a demon, convince themselves he is just a boy, underestimating the true danger before them. Determined, the humans organize to fight as a team to survive. Meanwhile, the young adversary introduces himself as Jilbages, son of Demon King Goljas, revealing his identity with firmness and purpose. Jilbages firmly declares his identity as Demon Prince, causing the magical pressure around to rise suddenly. The humans, overcome by fear, try to maintain composure and form a defense, even as their bodies tremble before the overwhelming presence of the enemy. Fueled by fear and hatred, the humans shout war cries at the enemy, calling for divine protection and proclaiming the destruction of the Dark Clan. Before them, Jilbages watches silently, standing firm in the face of the imminent hostility. Within moments, the humans' bodies fall to the ground, defeated with lethal precision. The survivor watches, paralyzed, at Jilbages' coldness. The young prince shows he is accustomed to death. His movements reveal brutal experience. making clear he is no ordinary boy, walking among the fallen bodies. Jilbages' presence imposes an oppressive silence. The remaining humans stare in shock and terror, unable to understand how someone so young can carry such coldness and power. Fear grows. If he is already like this now, what will happen at his peak? How many more lives will be sacrificed in this war? Facing the promise of freedom, one human acts. Trembling with fear but driven by desperation, he launches an attack. Even knowing he may be making a mistake, he chooses to kill Jilbages there, risking everything in a scream of fury and survival. One human, motivated by his companion's death, charges in a desperate attack, but Jilbages intercepts easily and, coldly, turns the opponent into fuel for his power, pronouncing the word metaphase while brutally tearing the enemy's arm. During the fight, a human tries a fatal blow against Jilbages, shouting words of hatred. However, the young demon prince reacts with speed and precision, interrupting the attack coldly and with lethal efficiency. After eliminating the last enemy, Jilbages remains silent with tears running down his face, holding the bloodied dagger. The arena erupts in applause and euphoria. While some celebrate him with pride, others watch shocked by the young demon prince's coldness and efficiency. After the battle, Jilbages walks back exhausted, sighing in relief under the night sky. The crowd still cheers from afar, but he silently watches the moon, filled with deep thoughts and a restlessness he cannot name. After the fight, Jilbages faces an unusual scene. Two women wait for him in his room. One, puzzled by the situation, questions the presence of the other, a provocative demoness who invites him not to sleep alone, flashing a mischievous smile. The young prince, confused, barely has time to process what is happening. Jilbages realizes he is trapped in a magical illusion created by the enigmatic figure before him. She confirms that only he can see or feel it, making clear nothing there manifests in the real world. When asked, the entity admits she is something like a succubus. Despite the magical power spent, the conversation continues, revealing a tense but controlled exchange. Jilbages remains wary of the sudden kindness from the entity who presents herself as a kind of demon goddess. Despite her provocations and seductive invitation, he refuses to get close, finding the situation strange and uncomfortable. Still, he expresses genuine concern, revealing that despite everything, he does not want her to end up with a broken heart. The mysterious entity reveals the essence behind taboos: guilt. She explains that suffering, hesitation, and worries slowly erode the will, inevitably leading to breaking limits. Taboo, then, is not just an arbitrary prohibition, it is the burden of conscience facing transgression, which weakens and imprisons the soul. The young demon prince reflects on the price of power. He understands that as long as he seeks strength with hesitation and guilt, he will continue to suffer. The entity warns, human hearts are fragile, and if he breaks, the pact between them will be useless. The demon entity comforts the young warrior, offering her lap to calm him. He soon realizes the gesture is an attempt to prolong their pact, but even so, he ends up surrendering to the moment of rest. Jilbages is praised by members of the demon clan after showing growing power by breaking his opponent's chains. Though surprised, they recognize his skill and note that his magical energy is increasing. Jilbages reveals he set a limit for himself before the ritual, facing 5 enemies at once. His efficiency impresses the watchers, and his current power already surpasses that of a regular demon warrior. Meanwhile, the enemies' bodies are dismantled as part of the process. The demon warriors discuss the spoils after the fight. One offers Jilbages the enemy's femurs as valuable items, mentioning their usefulness. Confused about what happens to the rest of the bodies, Jilbages is told that liches use them as catalysts for their techniques, while others joke about turning parts into trophies. Jilbages asks for the skull as a trophy. The demon warrior promises to process it and deliver it, laughing enthusiastically. Meanwhile, the female entity watches silently, but firmly states that her soul will not be shaken by any of it. Even suffering deeply and shedding tears of blood, Jilbages smiles and declares he will continue for a long time and keep the demon goddess entertained. Impressed by his endurance, she watches silently, recognizing his tenacity. The demon goddess declares that Jilbages will be her last contractor. While resting on her, he He hears that she has become too powerful and can no longer break taboos alone. In another scene, her true form grows in the palace, fed by the taboos that keep being broken around the world. The demon goddess reflects on Jilbage's impact on her existence, recognizing him as the last man she felt anything for before becoming just a concept. She holds him tenderly, admitting that even with her divine power, she cannot erase his suffering. With sorrow, she begins to say something she wants to do once it's all over. She gently kisses Jilbage's forehead, asking him to rest his soul, even if only for now. Amid pain and struggle, she offers a moment of peace, showing care and compassion for her last contractor. Jilbage's is officially promoted to the rank of squire, proving his lineage without difficulty. Excited, a young woman congratulates him, saying the moment he's waited for has finally arrived, the meeting with those he always wanted to meet. The date for the audience with His Majesty is set. Jilbage's, along with his siblings, must present himself at the palace in 7 days. The meeting with the king draws near, marking the start of a new and decisive chapter. A map shows the structure of the demon domain. At the top is the palace, where the demon king resides, surrounded by areas where Jilbage's brothers live. Below are the royal residences, and on a lower level, the servants' quarters, where Jilbage's and the demon goddess are temporarily housed. The spatial hierarchy emphasizes the distance between the protagonist and the center of power. Jilbage's and his demon contractor walk toward the palace, marking the long-awaited moment. While she reinforces her seriousness and warns him not to have false expectations, he replies with indifference and irony, as if he's heard the same warning many times before. The atmosphere is tense and anticipatory, as the official entry into the heart of demon power finally happens. Jilbage's is officially invited to a weekly lunch with the Demon King and the other heirs, a traditional palace event. He is recognized as a participant and will be escorted to the throne room, located in the inner castle sector. Though he keeps a firm posture, internally Jilbage's is worried. The invitation means a reunion with his own father, the king who killed him in his past life, and also with his half-brothers. The tension is masked under the formality of a family dinner. The entity warns that the risk in the palace is extreme. If Jilbage's makes the wrong decision, his soul will be completely erased. She does not know the power of the current Demon King, but warns that everything will be decided when a new king takes the throne. The threat applies to all heirs. Despite the warning, Jilbage's shows confidence, stating he understands the gravity of the situation. Jilbage's finally arrives at the imposing Demon King's castle, the palace where the heir's fate will be decided. The gates open, and he enters with steady steps, aware of the risks and seriousness awaiting him. Jilbage's advances determinedly, wielding the femur turned into a weapon. Each step carries the weight of the lives depending on him. Even facing danger, he stays focused, remembering he's not alone. Allies stand beside him, and a firm purpose guides him. He enters the hall alongside Lady Platifa, announced formally. The environment is tense. He is about to meet his greatest enemy, someone with whom he has a bitter history. The inevitable confrontation is about to begin. Jilbage's steps into the throne room, where a dense, twisted atmosphere fills the hall. The energy is suffocating, and imposing figures watch from a distance. One observer immediately recognizes what's before her, her gaze sharp with surprise and analysis. Jilbage's finally stands before Golja's, the second Demon King, and his father. Seated on his throne, the sovereign greets him with authority and a tone of distant familiarity, noting how much his son has grown since they last met. The tension of the reunion is heavy, marked by a silent past and an uncertain future. He faces an overwhelming enemy whose magical strength rivals the Dark Portal itself. The power gap is striking, and he realizes how far he still is from reaching his goal. Taken by frustration, he wonders how many taboos he'll have to break before facing him on equal terms. The Demon King invites Jilbage's to join him for the meal. Even though he arrived early, with a restrained nod, he accepts. The tension is palpable, and as he steps away, one of his companions wishes him luck with his father. Though silent, the weight of the moment is clear on his face. While accompanying the Demon King, Jilbage's only then notices all the consorts gathered. Distracted by his father's imposing figure, he hadn't realized the audience would include these powerful figures, each with their own aura of authority and mystery. Upon entering the hall and facing the consorts, Jilbejas momentarily loses focus and stumbles, visibly shaken. The Demon King notices and asks if the absence of his mother is making him anxious. Embarrassed by his distraction, Jilbejas scolds himself inwardly, trying to concentrate on the situation. He walks beside his father, the Demon King, trying to act naturally after 5 years apart. During the conversation, the king comments on the consorts left behind, revealing his fear even for that territory. Meanwhile, the young prince wonders how to properly interact with such a distant and feared father. Jilbejas continues following the Demon King through the castle corridors, maintaining composure in front of his imposing presence. Amid subtle laughter and comments about the past, the king recalls his own experiences with his brothers when invited to the palace. Now it's Jilbejas' turn to meet his siblings for the first time. Though confused about how to handle everything, he responds firmly, still trying to understand the distance between them. As they walk through the vast corridors, the Demon King shares part of his story with Jilbejas. He reveals he was the second son of the former Demon King. His older brother, the natural heir, was corrupted by pride and decay, believing succession was guaranteed by birth order alone. To the current king, that brother was useless. The Demon King continues his brutal story, explaining he killed the older brother for being unworthy of the throne. His sister, though more determined to be the next sovereign, was vain and self-absorbed. He killed her too. Both fell easily, failing to resist more than 2 fights. His words reveal not only the ruthless nature of his rise, but also how merciless the fight for power is in that realm. He shares his cruel philosophy with his son. To rule, one must have absolute power. He says the older siblings have no value for the throne, and when Jilbejas himself judges he is ready, he should not hesitate, even if that means facing his own brothers. The young prince responds with a determined smile, accepting the weight of those words without question. Jilbejas finally reaches the dining hall, accompanied by his father. Before a table already filled with other heirs, the air is thick with hidden tension. Instructed to be cautious, he is met with an enigmatic smile from one brother, marking the start of a meeting full of hidden intentions. His siblings reveal themselves. Rubifia, the second demon princess, known as the Pyroclastic Flow, and Iojas, the first demon prince, called the Ice Prison. With cold looks and provocative remarks, they make their hostility clear. The atmosphere around the table becomes tense. The succession clash is about to begin. With Jilbejas' arrival, the other demon princes and princesses are introduced, each with a distinct personality. The third prince, Diogenes, also known as the Lover or the Pervert, immediately makes provocative comments. The fifth princess, Spinesia the Glutton, barely notices her brother's arrival, focused only on her meal. The royal table is full of tensions, eccentricities, and hidden dangers. The sixth princess, Tapasia the Sleeping Princess, remains completely unaware of the environment, sleeping deeply in her chair throughout the meeting. Meanwhile, Jilbejas notices something strange. Only 5 people sit at the table. Confused, he realizes one presence is missing, but soon a mysterious figure arrives, casually explaining the absence. The tension rises with the arrival of the last member. Amid the banquet and family tension, a painful memory flashes through Jilbejas' mind. A desperate cry for his mother. The scene abruptly shifts to a vivid memory of destruction. A dark figure engulfed in flames faces fleeing soldiers, ordering them to deliver a message of challenge to her master. "We will be waiting here, and will be your opponents anytime." This glimpse of the past reveals deep trauma and suggests Jilbejas' mother was involved in a brutal, possibly fatal confrontation. The fourth demon prince finally appears, emerges, bearing the title of Envy. Contrary to his initially indifferent and bored "What?" attitude, he quickly reveals a chaotic and disturbing side, bursting into insane laughter. His unstable aura signals he is both unpredictable and dangerous, adding a disturbing energy to the already tense demon siblings meeting. Consumed by pain and rage, the young prince explodes emotionally, blaming Alexander for everything that happened. In a fit of fury, he attacks with his sword, overwhelmed by guilt and despair. The tension peaks, making clear the sibling conflict is just beginning. Driven by hatred, the prince reveals his contempt for the Demon King, the army, and above all, Alexander, whom he blames directly for what he has become. In an explosive outburst of rage and frustration, he charges forward with sword in hand, while one sister cries out his name in desperation, trying to stop the inevitable clash. After the rage burst, an uncomfortable silence falls over everyone. Alexander and his father leave the hall under watchful eyes, each sibling reacting differently with distrust, contempt, or indifference. Tension builds as the king lets out a resigned comment, aware of the chaos to come. Following the intense confrontation, a princess intervenes and firmly holds Alexander, reminding him of his own words and the control he must maintain. She advises him to endure the provocation and not be affected. Still shaken, Alexander thanks her and apologizes. Meanwhile, the king watches silently from the throne, as heavy looks remain among the siblings. Alexander emerges in the corridor, trying to start a conversation. Surprised by the sudden approach, the fourth prince reacts nervously. Alexander calmly apologizes, explaining he didn't mean to scare him, which provokes an exaggerated and sarcastic reaction from Emerges, who tries to hide his own fear with mockery. During dinner, Emerges approaches Alexander with sarcasm and condescension, hinting that he must be scared being away from his mother. He mockingly pats his head, calling him good boy, which annoys Alexander. Then Emerges arrogantly introduces himself as the Great Emerges and demands Alexander remember that, asserting his vanity and desire to dominate. Fueled by hatred and humiliation, Alexander walks purposefully through the dining hall, coldly threatening to kill his brother. The atmosphere grows tense, and the restrained fury in his words reveals that the rivalry between the demon princes is about to explode. The demon kingdom is ruled by Golgi's Olgi, the demon king. His 7 children, each with a distinct title and personality, form an unstable hierarchy. First prince, Aoges Vernes, Archduke, imposing and serious. Second princess, Rubifia Ribeiro, Archduchess, proud and explosive. Third prince, Diogenes Gigamund, Duke, obsessed with love. Fourth prince, Emerges Izanes, Count, envious and mocking. Fifth princess, Spinesia Solo, Viscountess, driven by gluttony. Sixth princess, Topasia Coraut, Esquire, sleepy and apathetic. Seventh prince, Jilbages Riiju, Esquire, the youngest, newcomer, wrapped in family tension and promises of conflict. The succession to the throne seems a deadly game among brothers guided by ambition and sin. At the dining table of the demon princes, Jilbages notices that only his seat has 2 plates, which immediately draws his attention. Before he can react, the older siblings Rubifia and Ioges warn him with provocative smiles. There are strict rules in this space, and as a newcomer, he must be prepared to follow them. The atmosphere among the siblings remains tense, with suspicious looks and veiled disdain. During the tense dinner among the demon princes, Rubifia and Ioges interrupt in unison to enforce the first and most important rule: politics are forbidden at the table. Then Aoges steps forward, demanding to clarify something with Jilbages before he sits. Even assuming the new prince has already done his homework about his brothers, Aoges decides to formally introduce himself, maintaining an air full of judgment and distrust. Aoges presents himself with pride, declaring he is the Demon King's firstborn and natural heir to the throne. He makes clear he demands to be treated with the respect he believes he deserves, promising to return it in kind. When Jilbages is invited to sit, Rubifia interrupts, demanding he take initiative and refusing to let him lean on others at such a symbolic moment. The environment stays charged with tension and hierarchy. Rubifia introduces herself sharply, emphasizing her authority and demanding Jilbages show conviction in choosing his seat. She suggests that if he came prepared, he would already know which side of the table to choose. Jilbages remains calm and internally responds with irony, showing he had anticipated the situation. The tension remains high, marked by subtle power plays and expectation. Jilbages analyzes the round table setup, which symbolizes the struggle for succession to the Demon King. With the throne at the center, the seats split into 2 balanced factions. His arrival breaks this balance. Standing firm, he declares his position, surprisingly aligning with Platifia, showing political strategy and anticipating the impact of his choice. Jilbajas suddenly stands, throwing utensils on the table forcefully. In his gaze, there is no hesitation, only cold hostility and determination. With the cutting words, "You are all my enemies," he makes clear he does not intend to form alliances, openly challenging all his siblings and breaking any appearance of diplomacy. Despite Jilbajas' hostility, the siblings react with a mix of surprise and tolerance. Rubifia realizes he is not neutral, while Aojas disdainfully excuses the youngest's behavior due to his youth. Demon King Goljas observes everyone and declares all are finally seated, at least for now. With everyone finally settled, Demon King Goljas begins the banquet. Between sips of wine and praise for the duck meat, he resumes his role as leader and calmly asks if there are reports to present, signaling the start of formal discussions. After a tense meal marked by heavy silences, Demon King Goljas gives his final verdict. The meeting is over. With a simple "dismissed," the princes and nobles rise simultaneously, leaving the round table that symbolizes the succession struggle. With the meeting ended, the princes disperse without ceremony. Rubifia leaves cheerfully, claiming commitments with other ladies. Spinesia complains of hunger. Emerges departs coldly. Meanwhile, Ryuju, confused and indignant, tries to understand what just happened. It barely started and was already too late. Frustrated by the lack of relevant information, Ryuju recalls the useless or trivial comments from the other princes during the meeting. Rubifia hiding a cat, Aoja's boasting, irritating provocations, and meaningless gossip. Amid despair, he clings to a sudden crucial thought. Discover the Demon King's weakness, any clue will do. Ryuju tries to approach the king, calling him father and asking about his next appointments. The Demon King replies he has a meeting with the kingdom's executives. Interested, Ryuju asks if he may observe to learn more about the king's duties. Initially, the king says he cannot allow him, but reconsiders and states there is no problem letting him watch as long as it concerns only political routine. The Demon King agrees to Ryuju's request and allows him to go to his office before the meeting. He says there is time before it starts and promises to send someone to fetch him. Ryuju responds enthusiastically and waits confidently, thinking his father values diligent people. Determined, he prepares to meet those expectations. Ryuju is surprised to find Emerges still there. The fourth prince, with his typical provocative tone, suggests Ryuju only got the king's attention thanks to his mother's advice. Ryuju visibly irritates but restrains himself. Meanwhile, Emerges watches with curiosity, noting the young man's reaction. A servant informs Ryuju that the king awaits him in his office. Before leaving, Ryuju stares firmly at Emerges and states he understands his determination clear. Emerges responds disdainfully, saying he will let Ryuju bark for now, showing contempt but also recognizing the youth's boldness. Consumed by silent hatred, Ryuju glares at Emerges with contained fury and swears, "I will kill you someday, along with your parents." Emerges' contempt is evident too. He curses Ryuju's eyes, eyes that challenge him, eyes he deeply hates. The conflict between them is now sealed with a blood promise. Ryuju finally enters the royal office after his silent confrontation with Emerges. Exhausted and frustrated, he murmurs to himself before composing and entering determinedly, "All right." His father, Demon King Goljas, is already waiting. With authority and calm, he greets firmly, "You are here, sit there." Respectfully, Ryuju replies, "Sorry to keep you waiting, father." Now finally alone with the king, Ryuju is about to witness and maybe participate in the machinery of the Demon Empire. In the royal office, the Demon King orders Jilbajas to accompany him to understand how a true king's work functions. The atmosphere is tense, but Jilbajas accepts. Suddenly, a crowd of subjects bursts through the doors, causing chaos with requests and presentations, interrupting even the king's attempt to organize the situation. A desperate crowd invades the royal office, bringing a flood of problems. Shouts overlap as ministers and officials compete for the Demon King's attention, bringing documents, war reports, and urgent news about conflicts between night elves and hobgoblins. Jilbajas watches stunned at the chaos, trying to organize the line. 2 hours later, the Demon King finally relaxes, drinking tea after facing a marathon of chaotic issues and reports. Jilbajas, excited and euphoric, celebrates the intense experience, recognizing the burden his father carries. The exhausted king confirms this is the true role of a demon king. Jilbajas expresses concern about his father's overwhelming responsibilities and notes that compared to human kingdoms, demon administration is still immature. Goljas confirms with discouragement that few involved in political matters are truly demons, highlighting corruption and other races' influence in government. Jilbajas reflects that the demon kingdom cannot forever depend on taking from others and must grow. Goljas agrees, admitting demons value strength too much, but to reach prosperity, bureaucracy and cultural activities, which many consider weak, must also be cultivated. Goljas reveals frustration with corruption and neglect in the kingdom since he took the throne. Outraged, he says he had to replace many demon officials, because even the races considered inferior showed more seriousness at work. Jilbajas listens silently, reflecting on the severity of the situation. Goljas laments that even among younger generations, corruption and negligence continue to root in the kingdom. Jilbajas agrees with the problem's seriousness, but quietly begins to form a plan. Despite recognizing his limits, he believes he can contribute but decides to keep his ideas secret for now. Impressed by Jilbajas' interest and dedication, the Demon King finds him peculiar, praising his persistence something rare among his other children. As recognition, he decides to reward him with a gift, valuing his attitude toward the kingdom's responsibilities. The Demon King gifts Jilbajas an old notebook given by the Night Elves. Though unused, he believes it will be useful for his son's studies. The item, with refined texture, dates from before Jilbajas' birth, when elves, allied with white dragons, once launched an attack on the Demon King's castle. During the talk, the Demon King reveals the sinister origin of the notebook he gave Jilbajas. He says that during an ancient attack on the castle, a forest elf priestess was captured alive, the only survivor among the invaders. The shock comes at the end. The notebook was made from that elf's flayed skin. Jilbajas silently absorbs the brutal weight of the story and the demonic heritage he carries. Jilbajas thanks and promises to value the notebook without showing his emotion. The Demon King then coldly reveals the elf used to make the notebook is still alive, kept captive in the Night Elves' residence for her ability to produce high-quality skin. He also says that if Jilbajas wishes, more notebooks can be made. The conversation reveals the Demon Kingdom's institutional brutality and the king's ruthless tone. Jilbajas reacts shocked to learn the elf is still alive, demanding more details from his father about the situation. The tension rises, showing the prince's inner conflict faced with the kingdom's cruelty. Before receiving an answer, attention is diverted by the unexpected arrival of a young woman, interrupting the moment. Jilbajas is approached by Sophia, who brings an urgent message from his mother. The message reveals several soldiers suffered injuries caused by sacred attributes and need immediate care. Reflecting on this, Jilbajas seems intrigued, but decides not to reveal his unease, hiding his thoughts before the servant. Curious about his siblings' histories, Jilbajas asks Sophia to bring all battle records of the demon princes. Despite the large volume, he insists on having them all, showing determination to better understand his family and maybe compare them to himself. Sophia, surprised, accepts the task resignedly. After returning to his room, Jilbajas reflects on the intense conversation with his father. Relieved, he concludes that despite the tension and disturbing revelations, the result was positive. Sitting exhausted, he sighs, feeling he took an important step. While Jilbajas reflected relieved in his room, a mysterious figure watched silently. The woman, with an ethereal air and penetrating eyes, pondered the Demon King. Despite her casual appearance, she recognized his overwhelming strength. Killing the king, she concluded, would be an extremely difficult task even for her. The mysterious woman smiles confidently. Despite the Demon King's crushing power, she claims defeat is possible. However, she warns the path will require breaking many taboos and enduring intense suffering. Still, she assures he can be killed. Meanwhile, Jilbajas remains thoughtful and alone, unaware of the grave fate unfolding. Jilbajas faces seriously the truth told by the woman to reach his goal. He will have to overcome countless taboos and even step over the fourth demon prince's corpse. Determined, he knows he must become much stronger, both in combat and magic. Accepting the weight of the destiny ahead, he remembers something important. The owner of the skin used to make the notebook is someone he knows. With the weight of this revelation, he decides he must act as soon as possible. Jilbages discovers that the elf whose skin was taken to make the notebook is Liliana, an old acquaintance and saint of the High Elves. Shocked to learn she's still alive, he decides he must rescue her, driven by a strong sense of justice and connection to the past. His resolve strengthens. He will not ignore what was done to her. On the front lines of the elven forest, a commander orders a break for his soldiers to recover strength. While surveying the camp, he recalls a striking event that took place there, an incident linked to the imprisoned elf saint. The memory of that moment remains vivid in his mind. A forest elf approaches the human hero smiling, asking to see her race's sacred magic. He, exhausted and visibly irritated, recognizes the pattern and sighs in frustration, thinking this is happening again. Originally isolated, the elves lived long lives without contact with other races. However, this changed with the prolonged war against the Demon King's army, forcing them to engage with the outside world. With increasing ties between elves and the Pan-Human Alliance, curious young elves began leaving their villages. They approached humans just for fun, causing confusion and provoking the tired soldiers. After showing his magic to a curious young elf, the hero tries to send her back. However, she refuses, revealing that she is probably an ally, or perhaps something more, by claiming to be his companion. Surprising the hero, the young elf begins to dance while chanting words in an ancient magical language. The atmosphere changes completely. Lights and energy flow around her with delicacy and power, leaving the hero stunned by the mystical scene. The elf ends her mystical dance with a gentle breath toward the hero, releasing a sacred energy that transforms the surroundings into a field full of magical flowers. The hero, amazed, immediately recognizes the power before him. It is high-level sacred magic, something only exceptional beings could perform. The elf's flowing sacred energy hits the hero fully, instantly restoring his vitality. Surprised by the immediate and powerful effect, he feels his body invigorated, as if a torrent of life passed through him. The elf, serene, simply thanks him for witnessing human magic in return. The hero, impressed, acknowledges it was not an illusion. The experience was real and extraordinary. A radiant figure appears, shimmering golden hair, curious eyes, and glowing bronzed skin. With a serene smile, she introduces herself as Liliana, sent from the sacred tree union, the mentioned saint. Before the human hero, she not only identifies herself but recognizes him, marking the meeting of two figures from different worlds but intertwined destinies. In a flower-filled clearing, the hero meets young elf Liliana, the saint of the sacred tree union. With a gentle smile, she asks his name, marking the start of an unexpected bond between them. This is how he met her. The truth about the notebook made from Saint Liliana's skin surfaces. She was killed and used by the Dark Clan. Still, the protagonist, now part of that same clan, holds on to hope she might be alive. Lost in thought, he is interrupted by Veen, who comes to fetch him. Veen, servant of the Demon King's castle, introduces herself to accompany the protagonist on his mission. She shows herself helpful and honored to guide him, treating him with respect due to his connection to Lord Jilbages. Veen leads the protagonist to the captive elf, wearing a cruel expression and speaking provocatively. She refers to the elf as part of a failed group and wishes to show her humiliating condition. Despite discomfort, the protagonist agrees to look. The protagonist follows Veen to the underground prison near the Demon King's castle. There, he believes Liliana is held captive. He recalls trying to enter unsuccessfully on a previous visit, acting carelessly. Upon reaching the Night Elves' residential area, the protagonist is surprised by the artificial starry sky made of shining pearls. Enchanted by the beauty and life of the place, Veen informs him they will meet a man named Shidar. Veen explains Shidar, a clan member, is responsible for the prison where Liliana is held. The protagonist shows confidence and relief to have this help. Then, they proceed together through corridors toward the cell where the saintly elf is imprisoned. Jilbages finally meets Shidar, head of the interrogation sector in the Demon King's castle prison. Shidar immediately recognizes him, expressing admiration and flattery as he enthusiastically introduces himself, making clear he knows Jilbage's reputation. Shidar leads the escort, guiding Jilbage and others to the Night Elves' prison. Without hesitation, he commands the opening of the imposing door guarding the place, beginning access to the dungeon where Liliana is detained. Entering the Night Elves' prison, Shidar boasts about its absolute security, claiming not even an ant could escape. However, Jilbage senses something far darker. The place is filled with screams of pain and despair, revealing a torture scene far from a simple jail. The group finally arrives at the destination, a prison area used as an educational center for young clan members. There, they learn to torture and kill their prey. Amid anguished screams, Shidar formally thanks Jilbage for his visit, who watches everything attentively. Jilbage is led to the special prisoners' cell, the VIP room, where the sacred elf is kept. Shidar eagerly invites him to enter and observe the prisoner closely. With a firm look, the young prince accepts and passes through the slowly opening door. Shidar reveals the saint elf burned her own comrades with light magic. To restrain her, they sealed her movements and used a special rope to keep her captive, showing that the seal alone wasn't enough to control her power. He explains that light magic is toxic to them, which prevented abuse of the Saint Elf. Despite the horror of the idea, Jilbage shows curiosity about the situation, while Shidar and Veen react with disgust at his attitude. Jilbage tells Shidar his body recently grew and that he feels a desire awakened in a certain part, but without a place to satisfy it. He suggests this may be some kind of fate, leaving Shidar startled. Jilbage shows a dark and cruel side, questioning if he can hurt the High Elf as he wishes. Veen reacts with indignation and fear, begging him not to do it, explaining she could not accept any woman without his mother's permission and couldn't face Madam if he gave his first time to someone so despicable. Jilbage replies with disdain and contempt, provoking Veen. Feeling challenged, Jilbage violently expels Veen from the room, ignoring her warnings about the High Elf's danger. He reacts with anger and disbelief, questioning if her resistance to magic is truly weak, making clear he underestimates the threat he is about to face. Liliana intervenes to protect Jilbage, summoning her contracted demon to witness everything. She shows confidence and determination to ensure nothing happens to him while Jilbage tries to regain balance after the sudden attack. With the distraction gone, Liliana shows satisfaction and encourages the plan's continuation, making clear the situation is under control and that Jilbage understands the implications of what is about to happen. She shows a confident and determined expression. Liliana reveals she is imprisoned in a prison with no escape, protected by physical and magical locks, located in the Night Elves' residential area. She questions Jilbage about the mentioned help, pointing out that from the start that Help's goal was to kill her. Jilbage, thoughtful, admits the real goal was always to eliminate the saint. Jilbage feels an inner alarm different from the one that sounded the first time he broke a taboo. Facing the chained prisoners, he realizes what he is about to do is even more serious. An act of liberation from suffering but loaded with moral ambiguity. The tension grows as he contemplates the weight of his actions. Suddenly shocked, Jilbage rejects the idea that his reincarnation justifies abandoning those he must protect. Although he initially accepted Auntie's suggestion to kill the priestess as an act of mercy, he recalls the many times in his past life he witnessed the suffering of forest elves captured by night elves. The memory of misery makes him hesitate, reigniting his sense of responsibility. He realizes considering the priestess's death as the only way out was a serious mistake. Tormented by remorse, he admits he could have sought another way to save her. Meanwhile, the guards move away, unaware of the guilt consuming the prince. Desperate to save Liliana, Jilbage gathers everything he has: his status as demon prince, an obsidian knife, a soldier's femur, forbidden magic, and Liliana's miracle. Still, he feels one last crucial element is missing to complete the ritual. Jilbage questions Auntie about the true origin of sacred magic, wanting to know if it lies in the soul or the flesh. His question carries a hidden intention, leaving Auntie alert and visibly shaken as she senses the train of thought he is about to follow. Faced with doubt about sacred magic's origin, Jilbajas decides to test it himself. Concentrating and reciting a spell, he summons sacred light in his own hand, a surprising feat for a demon prince. The small spark amazes even Auntie. By invoking sacred magic, Jilbajas feels his body burn, but confirms his theory. The source of holy magic is in the soul, not the flesh. Even as a demon, his soul can still manipulate it even if the price is physical pain. Convinced, he affirms he can still use sacred magic. Jilbajas enthusiastically presents a last-minute plan to save Liliana, declaring it possible. Auntie, though reluctant and critical of the boy's recklessness, resigns with a smile, admitting he is, after all, a hero, someone who doesn't hesitate before risks when lives are at stake. He reveals the core of his plan is Auntie's taboo power, determined to save a life that can still be rescued. He says he wouldn't be worthy of being called a hero if he didn't try. Surprised and intrigued, Auntie ends up agreeing to accompany him, admitting that although reluctant, Jilbajas' plan is too interesting to ignore. An elf runs to the cell alarmed after feeling a sudden wave of magical power. Upon arrival, he finds Jilbajas before Liliana, who is collapsed on her knees, exhausted and weak. The elf, surprised and worried, asks if the prince is okay. Liliana lets out a loud scream, attracting everyone's attention. One elf notes the magical restraints have been broken and orders Jilbajas to step back slowly. Guards prepare to protect him, even risking their own lives. However, the prince reassures them, saying there is nothing to worry about. Liliana acts like a dog to disguise her intentions, barking and approaching comically. Despite this, the elves watch silently. One analyzes the situation and concludes she is just a common elf with low intelligence, criticizing her pathetic escape attempt but admitting there is nothing to do but accept it. The elf is shocked to realize the saint has been subdued. Triumphant, Jilbajas declares that the long display of incompetence by the elves has finally ended after 7 years, leaving the opponent stunned by the direct accusation. Jilbajas approaches silently and, in a sudden gesture, cuts himself in front of the elf. Dramatically and comically, he throws himself on the ground, pretending to be in pain and exaggerating about his blood, leaving the elf visibly surprised and confused. He lifts the unconscious elf in his arms, explaining with mild sarcasm that due to others' hasty intervention, he couldn't complete his plan. When asked, he smiles boldly and says he will take her home and, when done, make her his mascot. The guards laugh, underestimating the seriousness of his statement. As Jilbajas prepares to leave with the elf in his arms, the elf guard appears at the cell door and confronts him firmly, saying he will not allow him to take her. Both exchange intense, challenging looks, foreshadowing an imminent new confrontation. The scene ends with tension in the air and a promise of continuation. Jilbajas expresses confidence in the night elves, recognizing they are the most knowledgeable about the forest elves. He says he believes they will find a way to use the saint's abilities faster than others. In the end, he reaffirms his decision. He places his trust in the night elves. Jilbajas confronts the night elves severely, accusing them of betraying his father's trust. His gaze is threatening, causing immediate panic in the interlocutor, who desperately denies any betrayal. Kneeling before the prince's authority, Jilbajas stares at Shidar like a triumphant predator. He contrasts his own swift, effective action with 7 years of the night elves' failure before the saint. Forcing Shidar to the ground, he coldly challenges him, asking who his father will recognize as the true owner of the prisoner, sealing his humiliation with unquestionable authority. Shidar, kneeling and emotionally shaken, reveals the heavy burden he carries. 20 clan members died recently on the front lines. Even confronted with authority, he refuses to yield, exploding in frustration and accusing Jilbajas of not understanding the pain and responsibility he bears. He tells of the tragic fate of his clan's soldiers, successive combat losses, with 6 killed earlier, then 15, and another 20 recently. All died agonizing deaths due to lack of metaphase, a crucial resource for the transposition spell. The scene shows lined-up bodies and desperate soldiers begging for more metaphase, demonstrating emotional collapse and helplessness amid the scarcity of vital magical resources. Shidar explodes in frustration. Confronting the prince directly, he admits they enjoyed the tortures, but also emphasizes his genuine dedication to researching the healing saint over 7 years, for him and his people who lack healing magic. Her power is their hope for survival in the war. His outburst reveals not only despair, but also the pressure of carrying lives amid brutal conflict. Overcome with emotion, Shidar shouts at Prince Jilbage's Ryuju. He accuses him of selfishness, questioning if, even with free use of metaphase, he really needs to deny others the saint's healing power. For Shidar, that power is vital, a last hope for those without healing in war. Meanwhile, the tense atmosphere is broken by unexpected applause, marking a new moment in the confrontation. The prince sarcastically applauds the emotional speech, ironically praising Shidar's words. Then, with a cynical smile, he declares the farce over, making clear he was unmoved by the arguments. While Shidar despairs, feeling his skin burn under the saint's blessing, the prince calmly reveals why she accepted him. The true power behind the blessing is love. Ryuju explains the saint's healing power cannot be received by Shidar because this power, called metaphase, is born from true love, a love comparable to a mother's for her child. He states that this bond is eternal, and Shidar will never understand it. Ryuju reveals the real requirement to receive the saint's power is genuine love. The saint loved him for freeing her from suffering, and he returned the feeling. This bond awakened the miracle others sought, something Shidar finds ironic and dismisses sarcastically. Ryuju confronts Shidar, accusing him of crushing all hope during the 7 years he kept the saint tortured. The prince highlights that despite all research and suffering inflicted, Shidar never understood the saint's true power source and therefore utterly failed. Seeing nothing good could come if the saint remained there, Ryuju decides to take her away. Faced with this, Shidar, defeated and powerless to resist, kneels silently, acknowledging his complete helplessness. Ryuju declares keeping the saint there brings no benefit and decides to take her away. Unable to oppose, Shidar falls to his knees, shocked, facing his inevitable defeat. Ryuju decides to personally take on the night elves wounded and then be healed by the saint, setting limits on the skills used to prevent abuse. He assigns Shidar the responsibility to decide who will be healed and gives Veen the role of negotiating compensations. Faced with Ryuju's proposal, the night elves surrender and agree to hand over Saint Liliana to him. The decision is made with regret and surprise, especially from Veen, who does not understand the sudden surrender. While everyone tries to process the sudden decision to hand over Liliana, Ryuju carries her in his arms, causing a stir among those present. The soldiers are shocked. Veen covers her face in shame, and Ryuju, confused, wonders how things ended up this way. Veen reveals she told Shidar about the prince's interest in high elf skin, hoping it would help strengthen ties with the Ryuju clan and increase slots for metaphase. However, she now despairs for causing such confusion. Shidar rejoices inwardly at his new authority, despite losing the saint's custody. Veen, on the other hand, despairs, knowing she will be reprimanded by her lady. Jilbages drinks from his bottle while walking calmly. Gradually, he begins to laugh quietly until he drops the container, revealing growing dark excitement. Jilbages bursts into laughter, pleased with his plan's outcome. Excited, he comments on others' reactions, clearly enjoying the situation. Then he punches the ground forcefully, calling for Auntie. The powerful revelation about the true workings of the saint's healing magic shocks everyone. It depends on a pure feeling of love, not just faith or power. Finally, Ryuju celebrates his plan's success and summons a powerful demon ally, who reveals having sealed Alexander's mind. Unaware what personality will emerge as a result, it is revealed that the emerging personality is, in fact, the original ego of the true 7th demon prince, son of Platvia, who should have been born. Smiling triumphantly, Jilbages reflects on the hero's ingenuity behind the plan and proudly acknowledges his presence was essential for everything to go as expected.